Well, it started out and it was a lot of fun, and it looked like we were going to party to a victory in Tampa Bay. And then, in the inverse of last week, the Eagles just forgot how to play football in the second half. But the defense comes up with the victory here, gets the Eagles off the field. And we're here to break it all down, the good and the bad. And I have a feeling for a 4-0 team, there might be a decent amount of bad we talk about today. But welcome into the postgame show. I'm your host, Shane Haff, joined as always by Eagles Eric. You guys be sure and go drop your 3-word reactions on Twitter as we kick off here. But Eric, is the heart rate coming down? How are you feeling right now?
Not great. I think, as much as we were riding high after the first half, and you were like, okay, finally the shackles have come off the offense. They're spreading it out. They're not putting these terrible blocking tight ends, inviting stack boxes. They've got good answers to the blitz. Everything we talked about, and then they said, let's put that in the bin. We're up. We don't need to show our cards in the second half, so we'll go back to the same stale vanilla stuff that doesn't work. And they let the Bucs come back into the game. They didn't complete a single pass in the second half. It was a joke. It does not, when with the way their running game is functioning right now, they can't just sit on leads like this. They need to keep the pedal down, and that did not happen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles had 23 yards of offense in the second half. Like, that's just an abomination. And I actually thought the defense was pretty good today. There's some obvious things we can talk about. Makuba has a pretty bad bust for a big play touchdown. Jihad Campbell gives up the big touchdown, but I'm putting that on pass rush. And outside of those two plays, though, I thought the defense did really well in a pretty difficult situation where your offense is giving you absolutely nothing. There's no chance to rest. Nothing's going your way defensively, and they're able to bear down and get, that final stop and get off the field. But the offense was just an abomination in this game. And it was just like it was in the first half of the Rams game, just like it was in the Chiefs game. This offense is a real problem, and people are going to say this week they're 4-0. They're one of very few. I didn't get to watch any of the other games. How many ever undefeated teams are going to remain? The Eagles are 4-0, and you want to be 4-0, but there's some definite issues on this offense, and if they don't get fixed, they will start losing football games. I mean, you're not going to block a punt for a touchdown or block a field goal to seal a game every week, and so the offense has got to figure some things out, and it starts with the run game. It starts with Kevin Patullo.
Yeah, and it's a big problem. Before the season, we had researched what happens after 2,000-yard rushing seasons, and it was amazing to see that almost all of them came down to exactly 4.2 yards per carry. And I go, maybe that's what's going to happen to Saquon. Remember, he was up near high fives last year. It's even worse than that. He's like 3 yards a carry, if that. So it's brutal. And I guess what I want to ask you is if you had to divvy it up into like the accountability, culpability of the struggles in the run game, who would you blame and how much?
Oh, man. I think the design's really bad. So we can start there. The design's really bad. And the offensive line's just not playing as well. I mean, today, Saquon Barkley had 2.3 yards per carry, and he had 2.21 yards after contact per attempt. He was getting 9/100ths of a yard before he was contacted per carry today. And so part of that is predictability in the run game. And part of it is Landon Dickerson's been really bad, and I know he's battling some injury things this year. And so I'm not going to fault him for that, but I am going to say, maybe we need to sit him down and get him healthy because he's not doing you any favors out there. Lane Johnson's left back-to-back games with injury. It just has not looked good up front. And so there's some execution things. I think there's a lot of design things. And the design stuff just really doesn't make sense to me because it's not like Jonny and I talked about this on our show this last week. It's not like Kellen Moore was designing the run game. That's always been Stoutland's thing. And I just don't understand why it has looked like it's looked like this year from a design standpoint.
Yeah, and you talked about it last week. The gap scheme, they didn't run a single gap scheme run last week. We'll have to go look at the tape, but it didn't seem like there was many of those. I couldn't remember count one of those, but maybe there was one or two. And the question is why. Um, the Bucs clearly wanted them to pass. Like they were blitzing. They had heavy boxes the whole first half, and it was highly successful what they're doing, getting it quick to the flats, quick in bending routes, and then a couple creative play calls, and it just went out the window. And I wonder, it's like, let's just be generous and say they don't want to show all their cards, and that's why they clammed up in the second half. Well, you can't go through an NFL season being paranoid, and their base plays are not effective. Last year, their most common passing play is that crash play. It
Yeah.
worked good last year. That no longer worked. They seem to have shelved that. Like they didn't really seem to have run that. They brought back that condensed choice corner BS that didn't work at all. A lot of the hits that we saw from the first few weeks that didn't work at all, they showed up in the second half here, and I'm eager to go look and watch the film. I just think they it's it seems like it's stubbornness to me, and if I do see that on film, it's gonna go up on Twitter. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the first 2 weeks of the season where the Eagles attempted 0 passes in the intermediate area of the field, so that 10 to 19 yard window is what we refer to as intermediate. 0 attempted passes there the first 2 weeks, and then against the Rams, almost entirely in the second half, Hurts attempted 7 passes there, and he completed 5 of them for a touchdown and like 90 something yards. Today, they only threw 1 pass in that intermediate area of the field, and it was a 20-yard completion. So they're not attacking that area of the field. And even later in the game, when they did start trying to throw the football, I mean, we saw the 3-and-out drive where all 3 passes were curl routes to A.J. Brown. That just can't be. That can't be. I'm gonna lose my voice because I yelled "Let's go" really loud when they got that sack. But it's scratchy right now. I apologize to the listeners, but that can't be your offense. And I understand, like, there's frustration, and you need to get A.J. Brown the ball. But if all you ever do is throw those 8-yard curl routes, teams are gonna sit on that. And so it's just everything is predictable, both in the run game and the pass game. And I feel like we've been saying that from week one, and people have continued to push back on me on that and say the Eagles are winning games, they just win, and they are. It's just not sustainable to do it with blocked field goals and blocked punts and interceptions in the end zone.
And the funny thing is, that was just last week. This is what is most privy to the Bucs defense when they go and do the film study. Like, you're looking at the thing you value most is what does this team look like last week, especially when they're most effective in the second half. And the Eagles started to open things up when A.J. Brown won one-on-one on those stop routes and then beasted the corner. But the Bucs, they literally knew that was coming, and then Hurts threw it in, like, he's completely like mugged up by the corner, threw it into double coverage. Like, that was just pure stubbornness. I don't even necessarily know that specific drive if I blame Patullo. It seemed like it was AJ and Jalen were like, oh, we're just gonna like make sure that we don't like blow this, and that's where it snowballs. Where it's like you have the offensive coordinator trying to put the reins on the offense, and then it's not working, and then they're like, all right, now we're just gonna play hero ball, and it's a disaster. You need to have synergy between them. They should. It was kind of like the Falcons in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, where they just kind of felt like they could coast to the finish line. The problem is when you don't get the only time they got a first down, and correct me if I'm wrong, was when on the short field before they scored the touchdown on the fake tush push.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going 3-and-out, you're not taking any time off the clock. And then boom, 270-yard touchdowns over the rookies, and before you know it, like, you're in a game on the line. Like, if Baker didn't throw that interception, the Eagles probably lose that game.
They did get one other first down off of a penalty, but that was it. So that they didn't have any other first downs in that game. And we got a lot of comments here talking about Keely Ringo, and we're going to get over to the defense because there's some debate going on about the game that he had. But let's stick with the offense for a little bit. And it feels melodramatic to like talk about this again when you're 4-0, but I'm going to do it anyways. Like, how do the Eagles fix this offense? Because it's clearly a problem. So what would you do? You don't have a bye week for a few more weeks. What are just a thing or two that you could do simply to try to improve this offense going into next week against Denver?
Pretty much stop playing Calcaterra and Granson altogether. At the very most, like Goddard as a flex tight end, but minimize the number of condensed heavy formations, spread the field out, get 6-man boxes, then you have a chance to run vanilla inside zone and actually get 5 yards. Like, if you get, I'm 5 yards, I'm thrilled. They can't even get a yard or two at times. That's one easy way.
The Eagles had 21 early down run plays with a 38% success rate. Sorry, I was reading the wrong number. I was like, a 10% success rate. That is an abomination. 38 is still bad, but still.
And the thing is, they're by far, remember, the Eagles are coming in this game. We're number 1 in the league in rushing EPA. And people go, how's that possible? Saquon has 3.3 yards per carry. Hurts is doing amazing stuff on the ground. In this game, the QB run was working fantastic. That completely went away, essentially, in the second half. Even though there was multiple times where, I don't know if it was a zone read or just called run play, where Hurts could have kept it. Like, if teams are selling out on certain stuff, it doesn't matter if you have to keep doing the same thing. Like, if Hurts has to keep running it, do that. Like, if you have to keep running 4 and 5 wide spread sets, do that.
Yeah.
Because teams, when you can run these dual flex tight ends, bring like guys into the formation, run some meaningless motion out there, and then just hand it into a mess of bodies, teams are teeing off on that all season. It's not working at all. And the only time they got the run to the perimeter that I can remember was like a toss play on a short yardage situation where you shouldn't even be running toss anyway, and then they didn't convert. And Saquon fell down like 6 times. He had no traction on this field. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, Empty. Everybody that's listened to me for a while knows how much I love Empty. And it worked when the Eagles ran it in this game, which wasn't very much, but that 3rd and 2 on the second to last drive, like, you need 2 yards and you can effectively, like, well, you don't end this game, but you put the Bucs in a position where they're going to have to probably start thinking about timeouts. It's like, just go empty. If they're going to pressure you, they're giving you one-on-ones across the board, and that's where you can throw the slant routes and things to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Instead, you can run Jalen Hurts out of empty if they go light. Like, empty is such a cheat code, and in that situation, they put Saquon in the backfield. They put a tight end attached to the line, and it was really clear to me pre-snap that they were going to be bailing guys out off of the top of the screen because they only had 2 guys covering 3 receivers. So some of those guys are bailing out to take the tight end. And yet they leave the backside guy unblocked to Jalen Hurts. They only rush 4. It's 6 guys blocking. You dramatically screwed up that protection. And that's the one that he throws that gets like tipped or whatever towards A.J. Brown. And that's before,
they're lucky.
Lucky. Spread it out. And that's a situation where you could spread it out and run Jalen Hurts downhill and you can get the first down, or you can get to tush-push territory, or just tush-push twice on 3rd and 2. But they set themselves up to get blitzed. They mishandled the protection, and there was nothing there. And I felt like I saw that a lot this game. And like you said, the Eagles didn't complete a pass in the second half, and the run game was abysmal. And so there's so much that needs to be fixed design-wise on the offense. And there's so much the Eagles need in terms of getting healthy. Lane Johnson leaving back-to-back games. Landon Dickerson clearly playing hurt or just isn't a good football player, one of the two. And we know he was dealing with injuries in training camp, so I'm pretty sure it's that. Like, they've got to get healthy. but they got to make it a little easier on themselves too.
Yeah, and it's like there's other receivers out there, and like how many targets did Goddard get a target in the second half? I don't recall. Like Devontae Smith, they kept trying AJ. Like they tried him on two deep balls and like the couple hitches. And the reason I said that was lucky is because the ball that got tipped on that third down play, it looked like the cornerback was sitting on it. Maybe it would have had a pick six. So I'm eager to go look at the film on that play. And people pointed that out. Like, as much as I didn't want them to run screens, which, by the way, a little humble brag, the screens didn't work at all. They could have ran a bubble on that play. It looked like they had a favorable spacing to the top there. Because here's the thing. Even if a team bails out to coverage, they're still out leveraged. Like, that's one of the ways to attack these like double mug and amoeba fronts is okay, even if they drop out, well, they still need to go a long way to get out to the sidelines. So you have an opportunity to beat them out there. And yeah, it just seemed brain dead in the second half, what their approach was. And I'm interested to hear, like, what are they going to say in the press conferences? I know the players are going to be pissed. So
yeah, we might get some good AJ Brown quotes in this one. I was trying to look up the targets since you mentioned him. It looks like there was... Well, now... it just reloaded. Okay. A.J. Brown, Will Shipley, Grant Calcaterra, A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown targeted 5 times in the second half. Grant Calcaterra 1, Will Shipley 1. None for Devontae Smith, none for Dallas Goedert, none for Saquon Barkley. Just spam it to A.J. Brown or throw it to backups.
I have no words. Like, I just want to know what the mindset is, because we're left here sitting and speculating or trying to come up with excuses of like they don't want to show their cards, or they think that as long as they don't turn it over, they're gonna win. But yeah, it's like, here's the thing: people who use that as a way of defending the Eagles, well, they're still calling pass plays. And when you drop the back to pass, you want it to be successful. So saying they still won the game is a ridiculous counter argument, because the plays that they did call were utter failures. And they can't even gain like 2 or 3 yards. Like, that's how difficult it is for them in the Rams first half and the second half here. So maybe they should have kept some of those goodies for the second half that they had in the first half. I loved the first half game plan. Do we want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, first off, it seemed to me that they spread the field out way more often. I didn't see a lot of snaps of those tight ends that I mentioned.
Yeah.
The ball quick out to the flats. Great blitz answers. They started off with that little pop pass to Saquon. They had another play that it was slow to get out there, but it still worked. They had a slant to AJ and an in-bender to Devontae. And I'm like, this is perfect. And they even had that QB lead play. And I don't know if that was out of empty or it's just a spread set. And I'm like, this is exactly what we need. And then it completely went away in the second half, which was just baffling. But yeah, that's like, this is the brand of football we need to be playing. They could have called the exact same plays in a different order in the second half, and to better success, that in my opinion. So what are your thoughts?
I loved I loved that little pitch to Dallas Goedert for a touchdown. Like, you come out under center, but you've got the diamond at the top, and you can just kind of see the like, oh, we thought it was going to be a tush push. Now the ball's snapped and out. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I like some of the design. I mean, if you can't get the run game going, there's an argument to just throw the ball to Saquon out in the flat. And they talked about that on the broadcast. Saquon has 4 catches for 31 yards in the first half, and you can think of that as an extension of the running game. I mean, yeah, it's passing yards, but if you're not able to get push up front and you can swing it out to the flat, you're just getting him the ball in space, and you can think of those as extensions of your run game. And so I like the effort to get the ball out to him, and it just kind of disappeared after that. I mean, Goddard, Barkley, and Devontae Smith had 10 combined targets in the first half, and they caught all 10 for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they combined for no targets in the second half. So I'm with you. I liked what they were doing in the first half. I thought they had answers to the blitz, and then in the second half, the wheels just kind of came off. But I don't know. It'll be interesting and painful film to get into tomorrow morning. But anything else you want to say on the offense, or should we flip this over to the defensive side of the ball?
And yeah, I do want to say something. The second half, it was almost like, let me prove it to the fans that this idea of running a bunch of tight ends out there and running condensed can be effective, and it backfired really bad. That the couple of the pass plays they were running were just like, it was like ace formations where you got everyone in tight, a bunch of heavy tight ends on the field, under center, and then you got 2 receivers wide, and you're just running some shot plays downfield, or just running it into a mess of bodies. Why would you do that? It made no sense. Like, especially how the Bucs like to play. Like they're like, oh, you mean that we can bring a bunch of guys in the box, bring pressure, and we're not really losing anything? It just, yeah, it was absolutely egregious plan in the second half.
Yeah, it blew me away that they kept going like 13 personnel with Granson as a fullback. So I guess maybe you want to call that 22 personnel if they're considering him a fullback now. I don't know what they're going to call that, and they just kept running a puller at the defensive end that didn't get there in time, and Barkley kept getting hit in the backfield. They did that like 3 or 4 times. It's just like, come on, like that's clearly not working. But it's what they did, and it was good enough to win this week with a lot of help. I just don't think it's sustainable. So
I can't imagine, real quick, I can't imagine what Jonny's going to say about the run game, because he's been pounding the table about how bad it's been, and like this is kind of the underappreciated problem with the offense, and this was like the pinnacle right here. So I just can't wait to hear him tee off on the run game.
Yeah, if you look at Saquon Barkley has less than 200 rushing yards this season. Like, that's insane. Saquon Barkley is on pace for a 837-yard rushing season this year. And that's not Saquon being that much worse. There's a lot of things going into that we kind of let off the show with, design-wise and health-wise. But let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. And I thought the defense played really well in this game. And I know, the final scoreboard says 25, but it is tremendously difficult when you're just consistently having an offense go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, playing in that heat, to be able to continue to play. And I thought they did a really good job, minus, 2 big plays that we'll talk about. Let's just lead off with those 2 plays, and then we can kind of talk about the rest. So that first touchdown, 77-yard touchdown, that's just one of the worst busts you'll see from a safety, I think. So Makuba, that's his guy all the way. And for whatever reason, he's flowing up to the line of scrimmage, gets beat. Reed Blankenship almost makes a phenomenal play to get over there and cover him. He just barely misses it. I had some people on Twitter being like, Reed's got to be better. I was like, that wasn't Reed's guy to begin with. And Makuba, even with all of that, if he just doesn't totally not know where the ball is, he still might like intercept that. So that was a really bad look for Makuba on that one. He's a rookie. It's going to happen. It has happened a little too frequently with him, coverage bust wise. But did you see anything different on that play?
No, it was 100% Makuba's fault. And we kind of had a Zapruder film incident last week. Against the Chiefs with the Tyquan Thornton touchdown, which people still don't know whose fault that was. But this was blatantly obvious Makuba's fault. First off, there was only one vertical to his side. He doesn't see him at all and has his eyes on the quarterback, even though he's like 40 yards away. Lets the guy walk right by him. it takes so long to develop that he's able to recover anyway and doesn't locate the ball and it goes right past his face. It was a terrible play. What I mean, Blankenship, good on him for being that vigilant because he's like, I think he's starting to realize like, holy crap, I got to cover for these rookies,
Yeah.
and it has a compounding effect because if everyone's trying to cover for everyone, that's bad news. Um, so it's I think maybe it's a one of these things where it's like they're trying so hard like to make an interception, and it's something I've seen as a theme on the defense in general is a lot of the guys seem to be like trying to gamble for turnovers because they're clearly preaching that every single press conference. Nick Sirianni talks about it, and I understand the value of turnovers. They're huge, but not at the expense of having a sound defense. The Eagles won the Super Bowl last year in large part because of being extremely sound. And they weren't even that high turnover until the playoffs. They had a great turnover margin. So I'd rather it's this like on offense, I would turn the aggression dial from 1 to 4. On defense, I turn it down from like 8 down to like 4 or 5, because and I think one thing I'll mention here is Fangio blitzed quite a bit, or at least they were sim pressures. He clearly doesn't trust the pass rush. It is anemic. The 4-man rush, edge rushers zilch, and they're going up against Charlie Heck, Haggard, and Bredesen, and they're getting no pass rush. That is concerning. So, I'd be curious to ask you: do you think edge rusher is a bigger need than cornerback?
Um, yes, I do. However, I actually thought in the first half the pass rush was generally okay. I thought Mayfield was under a lot of pressure, and I thought you saw that really start to die out as the game progressed. And I'll factor the Heat into that, but you also have to factor into the first half that you had Tristan Wirfs coming off of an injury. They were missing multiple other starters, so it should have been good. So I actually thought the pass rush was good in the first half, but it was in a situation I thought it should have been good, and it really fell off down the stretch. But we had another comment here about welcome to the NFL moment for Jahad Campbell, too. On that other long touchdown that I wanted to get into, I don't put that on Campbell. You can't expect a linebacker to cover a running back for that long, and there was just no pass rush. And that's part of the potential issue when you get into like pattern matching zone coverage. If you watch, they showed the replay of that from the back end, and both safeties are like outside the right hash because they have pattern matched vertical routes crossing the field, which is how that's supposed to play out. The problem is all of a sudden your linebacker is covering a scramble drill. Like, he did a good job in the initial coverage, and he wasn't prepared for the play to still be going on 6 seconds after the snap, and he gets beat vertically. And so, you would like for Campbell to stay on that route, but I don't think that's something you realistically expect. So I thought Campbell played well. I think that's maybe a mistake he won't make again, but it still wouldn't surprise me even if he doesn't kind of let up if he gets beat there, because at the end of the day, you're in a foot race against a running back up the sideline. So I think that one's a pass rush touchdown. And, you mentioned Reed Blankenship trying to cover for these rookies, and we've seen growing pains with Makuba and some busts in the secondary. We've seen some growing pains with Jahad Campbell in the run defense. They're not as noticeable, but they're there. And that's one of the things with playing rookies is you expect those things to clean themselves up down the stretch. But it's the pass rush that I don't know that that's going to get much better. So I would definitely say edge rusher.
Yeah, and I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Jalen Carter has been disappointing. Now, he went out with injury. To what extent has that been hampering him? Obviously, everyone knows the conditioning has been bad, but they desperately need him because if they're not getting like the automatic double team, they don't have a lot of other guys who can like win consistently, especially if they're not getting a bunch of one-on-ones. So that's something I'm going to key in when I watch the film. Someone said, for what it's worth, Uche had 5 pressures, but they could have been BS pressures. Like Baker, how many times did he just scramble around holding the ball, and then if you get anywhere near him, you just automatically get a pressure. Like, how about a quick win, and then you're getting in the quarterback, and or like getting a QB hit? I didn't really see any of those off the edge, um, so it is a concern for me. Did you want to talk about Ringo?
Yeah, let's talk about Ringo. So we had some comments rolling in at the start of the show, but we started off with the offense about Keely Ringo's performance, and some of our commenters here thought that he played pretty well. Others said he didn't. Obviously, he had some really poor tackle attempts, and that's a big issue. But what did you think, at least off of what you can see on the broadcast? What were your thoughts about Ringo and coverage this game?
Well, a lot of people alluded to this on social media, which is they're shocked that the Bucks aren't testing him more, which is fair. They kept throwing at Quinyon, and it tells me he probably had good coverage or a lot of help. So I'm just gonna wait to see what it looked like on film. Um, but like he had that nice fourth down stop. I don't know why. It's something that if you looked back last year, if he's trailing a guy, he will grab their shirt. And a lot of these guys, like you see it with the Saints and then the Bucks, is they'll leave their undershirt out so that when you grab it, it's this huge white thing that you're pulling, and it's the most obvious thing in the world for the refs to call. He has to just stop doing that. He had help inside, like he has good recovery speed. Just don't grab. It's fine if you give up a 5 yard pass, but make them complete it. If you just do that, then you're just praying you don't get called, even though it's extremely obvious. So overall, it seemed like he probably did pretty well. People, I think, will blow up the open space tackling stuff. Bucky Irving shakes the best tacklers in the NFL in open space. It's something that we know about him. In tight quarters, he can do hardly anything. When he's in open space, he can make anyone miss. So, do I think a lesser player would have made Ringo miss in those situations? Probably, because he still. I mean, his hips are very tight. It's nothing groundbreaking here, but in those specific plays, remember, right after he shook Ringo, he shook Bond.
Yeah.
No one would say that he has issues doing that. So I'm not overly concerned about those two plays. A play I do criticize him more for is he had that guy dead to rights in the flat, and yes, they stopped him for like a negative 2 yard play because everyone else came up and rallied, but he missed the tackle. Like, you got to make that tackle. He's supposed to be like a good physical like wrap up tackler. It seems like he keeps missing. So if he makes contact and misses, that's where I'm gonna really knock him. If a really shifty guy beats him in the open field, okay.
Yeah. To the pressure point that you mentioned earlier, next gen stats charting, the Eagles had 12 pressures under 2.5 seconds in this game, which is the first time they've done that since week 5 of the 2023 season. And 4 of those 5 were Zach Bond. So Zach Bond was on one in this game, which is, again, Fangio's blitzing a lot, and it tells you a lot about what he thinks of the pass rush. But so Zach Bond kind of leads the way with the pass rush in this game, which isn't necessarily ideal, but it's nice that you can do that. And it's nice that you have Campbell that you can kind of play some games like that with. But another guy that I wanted to shout out is Quinyon Mitchell. This might have been the best game of Quinyon Mitchell's career. He was incredible in this game. And I thought that watching it live. Next Gen Stats says that he allowed against Emeka Egbuka, allowed 2 receptions for 6 yards on 6 targets across 22 matchups, with all 6 targets coming in tight windows, which means less than a yard of separation. The Bucs lost 5.7 EPA when targeting Egbuka against Quinyon Mitchell. And then he also was targeted 3 other times, 2 of which were tight window targets, and allowed 0 receptions. So Quinyon targeted 9 times in this game. 8 of them were tight windows, and he gave up 2 receptions for 6 yards. So, man, Quinyon Mitchell, I thought, started the year a little slow. I didn't think he was great the first 2 games. I thought he was good last week. I thought he was spectacular in this game against Emeka Egbuka, who I think is maybe just like a special wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see, and I'm surprised because if you ask me in the offseason, I would say I highly doubt Fangio just has him shadow the best wide receiver. It seems like they're doing that maybe in perpetuity now. And what it probably clues me into is that they're going to roll the coverage over to the other corner and then have Quinion just lock down his side. And that's probably why we didn't see a lot of targets go to Ringo's side. He probably wasn't being asked to do that much. Um, so that I think that's when you have the guy I'm talking, you're probably looking at the third best corner in the NFL, and when you have a guy of that caliber who can match up against shifty, speedy, quick guys, but also alpha X receivers who are tall and physical, like he can guard all receiver archetypes. That's kind of, as Johnny likes to say, a cheat code, and then you have the opportunity to have extra guys on the other side. One thing I do want to say quickly
By the way,
is
that's part of also why my answer to the CB or edge rusher being the bigger need is edge rusher, because if you can't make do in a defense with two all-pro caliber cornerbacks instead of three, because I think DeJean's incredible too, you won't last as a DC very long in the NFL, and Vic Fangio has been around a long time. So although I would love to have a Patrick Surtain opposite Quinion Mitchell, give me an edge rusher all day. But go ahead, what were you
yeah,
gonna say?
and that's why he keeps blitzing. Like, one thing I'll say is they got so many free rushers up the gut on the Chiefs that hasn't really happened. Like Campbell and Bond, as much as they got pressures, they kind of got stonewalled and didn't really hit the quarterback. Like, yeah, they sped up the process, but you want to hit the quarterback ideally when you're bringing extra guys. I'd like to see them mix in more like nickel blitzes. Obviously, they want to keep DeJean in coverage, but there's got to be an opportunity where whether you spin down a safety, because they just need to break that tendency. I think teams are too ready for the interior pressures. Um, but yeah,
It would be
I'm with you.
nice if they go into like big nickel to just bring Sidney Brown off of the opposite nickel instead of having to send DeJean, but that would also be predictable if they did it a lot. But
So,
I'd rather see that happen.
what do you think about this? There's some people who are claiming that Quinion Mitchell got away with a bunch of holdings because Tom Brady alluded to this on the broadcast. It was clearly a very biased broadcast by him. I'll be curious to go back to watch the film, and I'll shoot it straight. Like, if it was holding, I'll say it's holding. My early impression is that it was really damn good coverage, and he didn't seem like he was doing anything egregious, like Ringo, like pulling the guy's shirt 3 feet.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady's a quarterback, and so he sees a lot of defensive pass interference. I mean, like, by and large, there's a lot of them that it's like, I mean, you could throw a flag there, but nothing egregious. And I think he does. I mean, the art of playing cornerback is holding and getting away with it. And so, to a degree, if it's not called, you did your job. And that doesn't mean every time you do get called, it's necessarily your fault. But there's an element of knowing how to do it in a way, knowing how to be handsy enough, knowing how to beat the ball by just that split second to where it doesn't get called. And I think he does a really good job of that. He's not a guy like Jacorian Bennett, who when I watch, I'm like, man, I can't believe he didn't get like 3 DPI calls. With Quinion, I'm just like, I think it's really good coverage. And so, yeah, I didn't see anything on Quinion that I would have flagged that they didn't in the game, but it's one of those things. It's like the right guard false start on the tush push. If you slow everything down to 25 frames a second, you'll find something. But real speed, I think Quinion was playing great today.
And people just need to look around the league. I remember when I was watching in preparation for the Chiefs game, the Chargers defense, every single route, their guy is receiving it like this off the line, like mugging the guy within 5 yards. Oh, that's supposedly the legal contact zone. You can't just receive a route like this by grappling them. And so they're holding every single play and just get called, I don't know, at league average rates. So I agree with you. It's a great point. Like, every single play, you're trying to see like how far you can push the needle. Um, and I think, if you're in great position, you're not overtly like preventing the guy from going in the direction he wants to. and you're looking back and you're playing through the hands, you're not going to get called very often at all. So I thought it was tremendous defense from what I could see.
Yeah, and last thing I want to mention on the defense, and then we can get into our 3 words, but that taunting penalty on Cooper DeJean in the first half was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Like, he literally sticks the guy and then steps over his legs while walking back to the huddle, barely even looking at him, and they flag that. Like, I'm so sick of this crap. Um, I mean, and then you get Vita Vea later. Like, we won't even talk about the motions that he was making because we'll keep the show PG. But after his sack of Jalen Hurts, and that's not taunting because you're not looking at a player. Like, I'm so tired of the NFL trying to insert themselves into this stuff. I would really like it if they would just let people play football.
Yeah, and how many 15-yard penalties did the Eagles have? And how many penalties were picked up? That has got to be the most infuriating thing in football when it's like, oh, phew, if there's a penalty on the other team. They made a good play. Oh, sorry, not and now it's at the point where every single time it's against the other team, I expect the flag to be picked up. Uh, and I really want to look at this on that fumbled snap, like play that looked like they flagged delay of game, and then the Eagles lost like 15, 20 yards, and then they called illegal shift. Where was the illegal shift? What I saw is they moved Dotson in motion, and then I don't know if it was Mechie moved up to the line of scrimmage, and then they're trying to claim like he wasn't set for a whole second, which is something that's almost never called in the entirety of an NFL season, and they changed that. I thought the officiating was absolutely terrible the entire game, which I'm sure no Eagles fans will disagree with. Now, I will say this: the Bucs fans also thought the officiating was terrible.
Yeah.
The Bucs, the fumble by Bucky Irving, they thought that should have certainly been overturned, but there didn't seem to be a clear camera view. So I'm more on the incompetent side than I am like biased against the Eagles, but it hurt the Eagles more than the Bucs.
Yeah. We had a commenter here call out the flag picked up on Jalen sliding. I thought they should have picked that flag up, by the way. Like, I mean, I don't like the quarterback sliding at the last possible second and getting an easy flag call. And he like slides right as the defender's there. The defender hits him in the shoulder. I don't think that should be flagged. I thought that was a good one to pick up. But what did you have a take on that?
Well, my take is that if you throw the flag, well, you've thrown it for a reason. And this is not a scenario where you have the opportunity to go back, watch it in slow-mo, and be like, oh, it's not a penalty. And that if that was the case, why they should have replay assist for that. It's so, I mean, it's working within a millisecond now. Why can't they just be like, oh, that was actually not a penalty, and then go on with the game, rather than another ref comes in like Usain Bolt and goes, it wasn't a penalty. Like, that's just bad process. By the letter of the law, I don't think that was a penalty, but the guy closest to it thought it was, and the way the rules work and the way you're not allowed to look at replay on those kind of plays, I think it should have remained a penalty.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our 3-word reactions. So every week we put out on Twitter after the game, except last week because I wasn't here. And ask for your 3-word reactions to the win, and we read out some of our favorites on the show. This first one from Nathaniel is basically what I was going to say, so I'll read his first here. He said unsustainable going forward, which is something I've been, preaching honestly since week 2, is that this just isn't a sustainable way to keep winning. So shout out to Nathaniel for stealing my answer here. We got find a corner from Casey. Down 3R20 says second half garbage. Josh says they just win, which is true, but man. AM said Kevin Patullo sucks. Jordan gave us a what happened, Kevin. Down also chimed in and said Jonny is angry. Yeah, Jonny was supposed to be on the post-game show today, and he saw the Eagles run game and was like, nope, I'm out. That's not actually it. And then we got Carlton said D is greater than, with the greater than symbol, so it works. He didn't actually use the words. D greater than O. And so great stuff there. Thank you guys for chiming in on those. Eric, did you have a 3-word reaction that you wanted to drop on for the game?
Stop 12 personnel.
Amen.
Because they cannot run it. First off, if you're going to run that, you need to be able to throw it to the tight ends. A lot of teams, they'll get it, like the Rams. They've been highly successful this year throwing out of 12 personnel. And what they'll do is they'll start in 12, they'll get the other team to match with some kind of base, then they'll motion a tight end out wide and they'll work Puka over the middle. Whereas the Eagles, they bring in a bunch of wussies and then they run up into 8-man boxes for 1 yard. I have nothing else to say.
Yeah. A couple 3 words here from the commenters. Brett Eclipse says Boogeyman Bowls. He also gave a bipolar offense.
That's good. I like that.
Yakko says, since Johnny's not here, where's QB counter? My 3-word reaction is just going to be play 4 quarters. Like, I just want to see this team play 4 quarters because when they're on, they're unbelievably dominant. We saw it in the second half last week, the first half this week. Let's just put it together.
One quick thing. I remember the one time they had Hurts running out the left side and Goddard as the lead blocker. They got like 12 easy yards.
Yeah.
It's absurd. Like, it's very, very obvious what works well for them and what is a square peg in a round hole. And they keep getting tempted to be like, oh no, we're actually 2024 Detroit. And we can put a bunch of tight ends on the field and run from under center. It's not working. It's got to be put in the bin forever.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff there. I think that is going to about do it on this one. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining in on the post-game show. Those of you that dropped the 3-word reactions, we appreciate you guys as well. Eric, do you have any final thoughts that you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
Stay tuned tomorrow. I think I'll let Shane handle all the past game stuff this week. So expect an all-22 defense review tomorrow morning on Twitter. Really going to hone in on Keely Ringo and see can he be the cornerback going forward.
All right. And Eric will be doing a all-22 player spotlight for the Patreon this week as well. So that'll be up later this week. Lots of content coming your way on the Eagles Pinpool Network feed and on our Patreon at patreon.com/Eagles Film Room. If you want to go and check that out, grab a free 1-week trial and you can check out all the stuff that we'll be putting out this week. Cameron, I'm sorry, what was your play Oklahoma's offense was his 3 words. There you go. Play Oklahoma's offense. We got that one up there for you too, my guy. But that is going to about do it. The Eagles move on to 4-0. It's the perfect Eagles game. The Eagles win. They're undefeated. We're furious. We get all kinds of stuff to nerd out about this week that we can improve upon. But at the end of the day, winning is winning. It may not be sustainable, but it is buying them some time to figure some things out and hopefully get healthy. So thank you guys for joining in here for the post-game show. We will be breaking it all down this week, and we'll be back next week for another post-game show breaking down another victory that I'm sure will make us all furious against Denver. We'll catch you guys then.